October in Iowa has a very distinctive smell, the smell of dry straw, damp wood, and freshly plowed earth. Across the vast fields, the wind flows like an invisible river. In the 1850s, Iowa was still a young state of land growing on the sweat of pioneers, of hastily built farms, of makeshift wooden fences, of mornings waking when the sky was still gray and going to bed with still aching hands. In a place like that, one needed more than just good weather. One needed experience. And experience wasn't always readily available. A farm might have the wrong seeds, the wrong planting time, the wrong drying method, the wrong storage method. Just one mistake, and when winter came, the cold question would be, will there be enough to eat? Therefore, an idea began to take on more value than any festival, to gather together, to bring what one had grown, raised, and produced in one place, to see, to compare, to learn, and to know that one was not alone. Fairs originated primarily as outdoor schools, for seeds, for livestock, for farming tools, and for community. It was early morning. The dirt road leading into Fairfield was beginning to fill in a very 19th century way. Horse-drawn carriages, horsemen, and families on foot slow, but steady, as they were accustomed to long journeys of nothing but wind and dust. On the carriages, what people carried was not just food or coats. What they carried was their harvest. A bundle of wheat tied with string like a test. A small sack of seeds, tightly sealed because it was more valuable than cash. It was the next harvest. Some wrapped a large pumpkin in cloth to protect it from scratches, as if holding a precious token. Others led a horse that had been groomed until its coat was shiny, with a new bridle, its eyes bright and alert. It wasn't just an animal. It was the honor of the whole family. They weren't going to watch for fun. They were going to answer a question many dared not voice. Were they doing the right thing? And if someone does it better, does it more accurately, how do we learn? The first fair took place over 3 days, October 25th to 27th, 1854. The fairgrounds weren't large, about 6 acres, but for a few days it resembled a makeshift city. Fence was erected, a long canopy was put up for displays, and there was even a simple dirt track. The crowds were so dense that Fairfield felt cramped, the grinding of wheels, the snorting of horses. The number mentioned in the documents is around 7,000 to 10,000 people, a huge crowd for a first fair. And to enter, adults paid 25 cents, not a small amount for many families, but enough to make them think twice before entering, because they understood this wasn't just a fun event. Inside, the smell of dry straw and grain mingled with the sweat of travelers. The first steps through the gate were like stepping into a place where agriculture, which had been silently hidden behind wooden fences, was brought into the light. No longer was it a case of we can do whatever we want. Here, everything could be seen, compared, and judged. Along the long canopy, agricultural produce is laid out on rough wooden tables. There are no bright lights, no glass display cases, only the careful arrangement of people who understand that what they bring is the result of an entire season. You will see bundles of rice stalks tied straight and firm, as if each straw itself must stand upright. You will see jars of seeds filled to the brim. Their lids tightly screwed seeds are not just seeds. They are a promise that they will still be alive the following year. You will see corn, squash, potatoes washed, dried, and placed there like precious treasures. And people stand there for a long time, not to admire the beauty, but to read. Are these grains full or empty? Is this color the color of a good harvest or a drought? Is this bundle uniform because of a good seed or because they know when to harvest? In the atmosphere of the fair, questions are exchanged like an exchange of remedies. Whoever grows better means whoever has found a way to reduce risk for the entire community. Another corner of the fair was where farming tools were displayed. It might be a plow, a harrow, or small improvements, a stronger joint, a different sharpened metal blade, a way to attach the handle to ease wrist pain. To outsiders, these things looked crude and heavy. But to a farmer, it could be the difference between finishing before the rain or getting stuck because the soil was too heavy, between back pain so severe that you had to rest, or having the strength to continue tomorrow. Achievements. It showcased the small dreams of so many people, the dream that labor would be a little less cruel. If agricultural products are evidence of the land, then livestock are evidence of time. You can't have good breeding stock in a week. You need care, patience, understanding of temperament, and luck. Documents about the first fair describe a simple display. About 100 horses and 11 pigs, along with some grain and farming tools. There was a covered area about 250 feet long and a dirt racetrack. In the horse section, the sounds were incessant. Snorting, hooves tapping, reins tightened, and people whispering as if afraid to startle the animals. Horses at that time were not just for beauty. They were draft animals, means, assets. A good horse could determine the speed of an entire farm, from plowing the land, carrying goods, to transporting families through the winter. In the pig section, the squeals were louder, more commonplace. But the meaning was very real. Pigs were salted meat for the cold months, fat for cooking, and stored calories. People look at pigs with a calculating eye. Which ones grow quickly? Which ones are healthy? Which ones are worth keeping for breeding? The referee walked through each section, stopped, looked carefully, recorded in the register. No one dared make a sound at that moment, as if it were a ritual. The crowd stood near the fence, tiptoeing, craning their necks, not out of unwarranted curiosity, but because the result could affect how they would be perceived for the rest of the year. When the winner's nameplate was hung up, the reaction was quick. Some burst into laughter, a laugh of someone who had endured a year of hardship and finally saw their efforts bear fruit. Some stood silently, not out of jealousy, but out of weary disappointment. I did my best, and it still wasn't enough. Amidst a fair primarily focused on education and agricultural competitions, the standout entertainment was the women's equestrian competition. You can imagine the scene. Crowds crowded near the dirt track, the noise increased, the atmosphere changed. It was no longer a quiet exhibition area, but a moment when the community wanted to see each other, more clearly wanted a joyful memory to take home after months of hard work. By midday, the aroma of food began to spread. But don't think of the brightly decorated stalls of a modern fair. In 1854, eating was more about satisfying hunger and relieving fatigue than about the experience. People ate quickly, standing next to horse-drawn carts. It might have been baked bread, corn, cured meat, black coffee. Simple things, easy to carry, easy to share. The warmth of the food wasn't just about the temperature, but about being able to sit down for a while, watch the stream of people go by, hear the laughter, and feel like you were in the midst of a crowd of like-minded people, people who understood each other without much explanation. Late in the afternoon, the sunlight began to soften. The crowds thinned out. The horse-drawn carriages rolled away from Fairfield. Some families left with the pride of having their names called. Others left in silence. But what mattered was, Almost everyone took something home. The records also show that due to limited transportation and organizational resources, in the early decades, the fair had to move through many towns so that many regions could participate. Only later did a fixed location become established. But in that moment in 1854, on the very afternoon, they were leaving that 6-acre plot of land. Perhaps few thought that far ahead. They only knew one very specific thing. This fair had made Iowa less fragmented. It gave a young state a place to tell itself. We can do better if we look at each other and learn from each other. From today's perspective, one might call a fair a form of entertainment. But in 1854, it was something more serious, a tool for better survival, exhibitions for learning, competitions for progress, meetings for community building. And that's why the American-style farm fair wasn't just fun. It was culture, because it transformed labor into a shared story, the harvest into a shared memory, and a new land into a place where people felt a sense of belonging.